Hi, Amber. Good to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you.
So, Amber, could you start with telling us a little bit about your personal and professional background, please?
Yeah, I am from Arkansas and born and raised. I have been in the health and wellness industry for over a decade. I practice as a health and wellness coach, but have recently gone out on my own um, as a well-being coach, encompassing the mind, the body, and the spirit versus just the physical aspect of health. And love to travel, be outside. I just love life. I'm passionate about life and helping others. So that's what took me to do this on my own. Um, I really just want to help other people live their best life. As I work to do that myself, I definitely walk my talk. And I feel like my life, my personal and professional life, have just been intertwined for as long as I can remember. I aspire to be a better version of myself every single day, um, whether that's finding joy in my day, if it's laughter, if it's a good CrossFit workout, if it's a good meal for myself, um, communicating with friends, or just resting, whatever it is that I need. I've done that for a long time, and that's definitely what I preach. I practice what I preach, per se, um, which is actually what led me to you, conversations with someone else. I
Mhm.
was traveling and someone asked me what I did, and I was telling them about my work. And they thought, hey, have you heard of audios? And I was like, no, tell me more. So I was very intrigued to learn more about myself. I was going through a lot of change in life at once.
Mm.
Um, a relationship change, the selling and moving out of a home, the starting of my own business after not working for over a year.
Mm.
Um, I
To
was laid off
all
at
of
the beginning of COVID
mm.
and major life decisions. And through all of that, I still wanted to show up for myself. I still wanted to do this and learning different modalities of how do I do this? It's just me. And I struggled making decisions on my own. And that was one of the things that spoke to me about audios is being able to make a decision without going somewhere else or feeling like you need someone else's validation or approval before you take the next step for your life.
Okay. Thank you. So let's talk about that a little bit. You took the program, now it's been a few months. Let's start with before you started the program, after you have gotten to know about it. What were you thinking? Were there any expectations? Were there any questions, apprehensions? What was your mind like before you started?
I think I was just curious um, to learn how I could benefit from something like this. It was very different. than anything I had been exposed to previously. I didn't really have any expectations. I believe I was just curious. And for me, because I had so much going on in my personal life, I did kind of question, like, can I commit to this? Is this something that is going to be worth my while and my time? But really, that's all I had was time. So
Okay.
I just jumped in.
Okay. And how were the first couple of weeks when you started the program? Do you remember what happened, what you learned, and
Yeah, it was the very first week, the very first principle, the twin voices. That was a turning point for me. It's that constant battle that we have in our heads of, what's right or what's wrong or however you want to label it. And the way that you taught that principle and describing what is right for you, that alone reminded me that what's right for me may not be right for someone else. And that's okay. And in the terms of thinking of what gives me more peace versus causes more restless when you're making decisions and you're hearing and listening to those voices, I immediately went to my body
I see.
because my body tells me more than my mind. And so, in thinking about big life decisions or even small ones, taking note of how my body was responding in those moments and asking myself, does this give me more peace? And notice if my shoulders were relaxed, if my breathing was deeper, or if my shoulders were in my ears, or if I was trying to like protect something, if my breathing was shallow and in my chest, really noticing what was happening in my body.
Okay.
And that correlation was very telling. It was a big awareness to not only listen to the mind, but to notice in the body how it's responding by what you're telling it. And so that first principle was, I was like, okay, that was the foundation for me on the decision-making process.
Okay. And then what happened?
So I started to do a lot of introspection as we began our contemplation. And as we moved along through the principles, the urge to prove and speaking less were correlated to me. I started to think about the urge to prove. And for me personally, that comes from a belief of not being enough. And so what am I trying to prove to myself? But I was doing it all externally. And so I wasn't speaking less, I was speaking more, as in trying to be seen or heard or even understood by someone else, looking for a validation or a direction or maybe even the influence of my decision making process, when really I was looking to prove to myself that my decision was enough, or what I was choosing for me was that I was enough in that. And when you have more peace and feel in alignment with what's right for you, there's no need for verbal communication. You're just at peace with your decision and there's nothing to say. And so I was constantly looking outwardly and seeking out here when really all I needed to do was go in here. Because there isn't anything external to give me my answer. Only I know what's right for me. And if you just, I would reverse it back. Okay, what patterns am I noticing? Am I speaking too much? Is it calm? Is it fast? What's the tone of my pitch? And then I would go back to, am I comparing myself? What am I trying to prove? What am I seeking? And then I would go back into, okay, what's happening in my body? And then it would ultimately take me back to those twin voices every time. So that was the foundation. And I would just work through each principle backwards.
Interesting.
And then that's how I would get the clarity that I needed. And I would spend time. I would write it all out and sit with it and see what felt right.
Okay. And as you mentioned, you were going through a lot during that time. Too many critical decisions all at the same time. Do you remember the principles being helpful in any of those decisions?
Yeah. Professionally, I have so many certifications. I have 2 degrees. I have over a decade of experience, but there was something keeping me feeling like I needed to learn one more thing. I needed one more certification. And it was excuses to keep me from getting started. Again, for me personally, it goes back to that I'm not enough. I don't know enough. I haven't done enough. And that wasn't true for me. But I remember specifically this course, and I was like, and it was not super expensive, but it was going to, not only cost me money, but cost my time. And then I was running it through the audio scope, and I was like, I don't need this. And after I went through that whole process, and when I came back and looked at it, I was like, it's silly to me now as I look back on something that I thought, man, I really need this before I can move on or, take the next step professionally. And that is a cycle that I noticed about myself. When I felt a sense of overwhelm,
Mm-hmm.
that being not enough would set in. And it's like I needed to do one more thing or learn one more thing before I could take action. And it would keep me from taking action.
Mm.
And I noticed that just through that one audio scope and how unnecessary it was. But being able to see it and go back and look, it just represented one of many of my decisions that kept me from moving forward.
I see. I see what you're saying. So you mentioned the audioscope. How many situations did you write? Do you remember?
Probably 25 to 30. I was roughly doing one a day. If it was a pretty big one, I would sit on that one for a couple of days. But anytime I noticed those twin voices, like a decision that did not come easy to me, I would run it through the audio scope.
I see. And out of those 25 to 30, how many did you resolve? A satisfactory answer.
I would say almost all of them. I have one that's kind of a continual decision and ongoing. Sorry, my dog Cooper. Um, and that's in terms of when I sold my home and being on my own for the very first time. Like, where do I want to be?
Mm.
And that particular decision is not resolved, but it does, I am able to get to the next place. Like, where is the next right place for me? And I rely on that and not feeling like I have to have almost like an ultimatum, if that makes sense. Like
Mm.
there has to be this complete end to that decision. It's an evolving decision.
Mm.
And I believe that that process has helped me to understand and see that. So that would be the one that I don't necessarily feel is resolved. It's just a continuation.
But you're moving forward, you would say.
Correct. Correct.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that comes to mind towards the end of the program? How did you feel? And what happened in the months after? Did the
I
process
feel like,
stay on your mind?
yeah, I feel like I had more confidence in making decisions. And that gave me the confidence to believe in myself, to know what's right for me instead of seeking it outwardly. And it's a practice like everything else. It's a constant practice. But I use those principles every day. I use it personally. I use it in my work. It's something that really stuck with me, and it allows me to always return to the body
Mm.
and ask myself, how are you feeling? Are you restless? Are you at peace? But it's given me the ability to be at peace with my decisions, um, and choosing how I respond to basically any situation. The power is ours.
Mm.
And when you get when you get to that place and you experience that peace, you don't want to let it go. You want to continue to feel that because your mind is at ease, and I don't have the brain fog, or I don't want to run from decisions, or I don't I've had more action, and I've taken more action in the last year and a half of my life, personally and professionally, on my own than I ever have.
Okay, that's really nice to hear. You were telling me, I think you're doing quite well now with your wellness coaching and things like that. I think you were also running a retreat sometime back.
I did, yeah. So making progress, uh, and it feels really good. It feels good. It's a little surreal to be like, and just to give a time frame, it's taken 5 years. I planted this seed 5 years ago to have my own business,
I see.
and now it's happening.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any final words for somebody who is considering doing the program? What would you say to them? How to make the best of it? What to do? What not to do? What to keep in mind?
I think it is one of the best tools that you can have for every decision. For anyone who struggles with the not knowing or not being clear on what it is that they want or what they seek, or maybe even who they are, I think it's important to take your time through this program. I would highly recommend it, but take your time through it and really understand yourself on a deeper level. It's a way to connect to how you think and why you think the way you do and how you respond. And so I would recommend really doing a lot of introspection. I believe that's what the contemplation does. It gives you that opportunity to go in and really take a deeper look at yourself, and notice as you go through each principle, what does that look like for you? And how is that showing up in your life? And then how can you take that and use it to move forward and get to where you want to be and who you want to become? It's it's pretty simple. It's not easy, but it's pretty simple. um, and I think it's just trusting the process and taking the time. It's there's a lot of being, even though you have to take action. It's being with yourself in those moments. And even though you're taking action and you're doing something, it's really not the doing. Does that make sense? It's how you are through the process. Um, and I would recommend finding the principles that resonate the most, that you notice yourself really going back to, and just put those into your day to day.
All right. Thank you so much, Amber. So good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. And sorry about Cooper. He
Not at
needed to
all.
participate. It's just he doesn't get enough attention around here.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Amber. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tarun.